Hi, this is Truth Be Told Transformation, and I'm your host, Bonnie Burkert, here to share tools for transformation to live your highest truth. So what could be more truthful than tapping into one's own energy to figure out healing and well-being? And yet at the same time, I like to take a higher view of it all. And so fortunately, I've invited a gentleman to my show today. His name is Todd Wilcox, and Todd and I know each other from Contact in the Desert, a really great UFO festival that used to take place in the desert here in California, and that's how I know Tony Sweet as well. So I'm going to bring Todd on right now. Welcome, Todd Wilcox, also known as the Slipstream Shaman. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Bonnie. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is exciting. It's good to see you and hear you again.
Well, Todd, you were just part of the community here, and I love. And when I say that, this is a community of people that look to the skies and in wonder, and also want to be a part of the conversation for what could be happening. And where I love where this intersects, though, for me, you and me, is as a yogi, a longtime yogi, I'm a big believer of tapping into the inherent energy inside to see what is wrong and figure out our way through it. So, Todd, you and I get to figure out how we're going to intersect these worlds of quantum healing, ufology. I read in your bio that you've got something to tell us about BIGFOOT, which I'm fascinated by. So let's see, everybody, stay tuned to see how Todd and I manage to go through all of these and what the segues are going to be. They may be pretty, or they may be like, it's just time to talk about the next subject. So, all right, well, I'm going to start off with your book. So congratulations on your new book, which is called The Slipstream Shaman. I said it well before, maybe not now. So tell us a little bit about your book, Todd.
So what the book is, I've been working with healing energy for a while. I do healings for people and I don't charge them, but I also would like to get to a place where I can do this all the time. I'm a retail manager right now during the day, and then I do this at night and during lunch breaks and those kind of things. And I would love to do it full time. And so I was looking for a way to continue to help people but not charge. I felt like if I charged people for the work I do, that I would lose my ability to do it. I'm not saying anything bad about people that do charge, but for some reason it just wasn't ringing true. It wasn't my truth at the time. And so what the book is to teach people to do what I do, give them the framework of what I do, and also encourage them to not only learn it the way I do it, but to run their own course. I like them to break away and find new things, and we're starting to share our adventures. And I'm hoping that as we grow the Slipstream Shaman community, we'll find more and more ways to help more and more people. And so the book and then future trainings, it will be how I work towards doing this full time, because I at this point don't want to charge for any healings.
Well, thank you. That's amazing, and I send you a wave of prosperity on your path here, because it's great, and it's one that is necessary, and yet we all have day jobs, don't we?
Yes.
So and that's okay too, because guess what? You can be in service with what we're studying here. We get to be in service. So
yes.
Okay, so the healing field, right? The quantum. Why don't you tell me a little bit about, I want people to find your book, so we won't reveal everything, but how did you find your way to this? Because, again, as I said at the top of the show, I know you for your radio show, My Side of the Universe, and you were being very, very supportive of, again, speakers, experts, authors in the world of certainly ufology, ancient civilizations, and the paranormal. So, we're going to talk more about your explorations into those worlds, but I want to know what came first. Was it paranormal study, or have you always known about your alternative healing solutions and how you could share those?
So they really developed together. I've always had an interest in things that weren't the norm. So alternative healing. I was fascinated by witch doctors and voodoo, on TV as a little kid. The way they healed people on Star Trek. I've always just looked for different ways for healing, for getting better. And I don't want to make it sound like I don't like modern medicine, but I think there's more out there. I think we've gone down the chemical side of medicine too far, and we forgot about the person. We forgot about their energy. We forgot about them, and that's where I come in with the extra help. And so I've been doing this for about 15 years. I was on a paranormal team, and we would go on different investigations, whether it was for Bigfoot or UFOs or mostly ghosts, but really anything that we could find, we would go look at. And when you do that, you get to know people in other groups. And so one day I got a call from a friend in another group that said, hey, we're putting together a secondary group that we would like people from many different groups to be on. And what this will be is a group that'll go help people when nobody else can. And so if it was a bad haunting, or if they thought they had a demon, or whatever the case, we would go help them. And I thought that was a wonderful idea. But my question was, so how do we? Because there's people that I go on investigations for that we haven't been able to help. How are we going to help them? And as a group, we started talking about different things we could learn. And one of the things was we brought in a shaman to teach us how to access our energy and use it for protection for ourselves and for the group and for the people that we were helping. And while we were getting this training, the shaman, she taught us about holding our hands together, finding our energy. And what she was describing wasn't working for me. She said it was going to be, I want to say she said it was orange or red, and then it would feel hot. And mine was neither of those. My energy felt very cool to the touch, and it was a light blue at the time. It now looks very much like that. You can see the hands holding it together. My energy looks very similar to that. If you took a sparkler and looked at it, or if you took a large diamond and shined a light through it, it's kind of what it looks like now. So I found my energy, covered myself with the energy for protection on these things. And as I was just practicing getting the energy stronger and accepting it better, one day I went to a different place, and it's a place that I call my quantum room. And for me, it's just it looks like I'm inside a storm cloud. It's kind of a dark gray color. You can see mists moving around. And there's no walls or ceilings or floors. You're just in this space. And as I've taught people to do this, their quantum rooms, none of their quantum rooms look like this. They could look like a car that they love. It could look like one of them is steps down to a pond, and they can float in the pond if they want to. Some people are underwater, some are in outer space, one's on the moon. There are all kinds of different places that people have developed for their quantum rooms, in the woods, out in nature. So mine is a little odd, but it just came to me, and I think theirs, they built by design, something that they loved, and they wanted that to be their quantum room. And in this quantum room, it's very similar to a lucid dream. When you're in a lucid dream state, you can do anything. You're like a superhero. You can fly, you can fix things, you can change things. And that's what happens in the quantum room. And part of the other training we were doing was we were going to take things to help us. And by things, I mean like people were going to take Archangel Michael along with them. And I never felt like that was something that I would be involved in. But as I was practicing the energy and then in the quantum room, I thought, well, if I had a warrior team to go, if we had to move something out of a house that didn't want to go, maybe that would be the way to go. And when I thought about the warrior team, a beagle came to me. And it was a beagle that I'd had years before that had passed away about 3 years prior. And she was ferocious. I know you're thinking beagle, well, that's going to be tough. She was actually ferocious, and she had a great nose. And so what happened as this warrior team developed, I received some more dogs. Like you see the Springer Spaniel back here. I've always had Springers. Some of the Springers that I had that had passed away came to help. An uncle that was a Marine in World War II and Korea came, and he'd also passed away. and different things like that. So I assembled a warrior team to help. But what I didn't know was how they were going to help. When I would invite people into the room for a healing, how it evolved was Desi would sniff around them until she found something unusual and then pull it out of them. Now, this isn't somebody in the room with me. This is metaphysical in nature. We're in energy and spirit. And so, the people weren't there. It's not like you see in the Philippines where they're pulling stuff out of people. But she would remove things from people. And then there was a secondary process that we would do that helped that person heal, and also the thing that we removed. And I know I just kind of answered that really long. If you would like me to talk about what we take out of them and what I call them, I can, or we can move on to another question.
Well, gee, there's no wrong answer, is there? I mean, because I could go way down that path. But I think I'm going to. We may come back to more of the specifics of shamanic healing.
Sure.
In a different way. It's tempting though, because I'm intrigued, and I personally have had experiences that the animal guide shows up. So I'm in relaxation. Yeah. There's the drumming that leads a shamanic journey, and I have animal, and our spirit guide, our spirit animals show up to help, and yes. It's really uncanny. And you could think to yourself, "Am I imagining this? That I just imagine?" I love dolphins, so a dolphin showed up for me. Maybe, maybe not, but there's still a great reveal that really helps, and that's where I would like to encourage listeners to be open to the possibilities here that take you. Yes. Into this other realm, and what the possibilities, what all exists. Now, I am determined, though, to bring this around to Bigfoot, and this is where I want to see if this makes sense, Todd. I wonder if creatures like a Bigfoot, or, possibly a Loch Ness, but for sure, aliens, do we see those on a different plane? That if you're open to these different dimensions, you're able to see these kind of beings?
Yes, I absolutely believe that's a component. As you look at Bigfoot, we'll go along those lines. And I just want to tell you, one of my spirit animals is Bigfoot, and it's a female Bigfoot that comes to me to help.
Interesting.
And so and just a little bit of background, I've got different layers, different levels of guides. My highest level are things that are not of this world. I've never seen them before. Two of them I can't even see because they are in a different dimension, different place. And so I can't see them focused. I can't focus on what they actually look like. The next level below that, I have a bull elk and also a Bigfoot, a female Bigfoot. And then below that are the animals that help me in the actual work, the nuts and bolts work. The elk and the Bigfoot, and then those other guides are to help me develop, where the ones that come to help are more helpers. They're like peers with the cleansing. Now, talking about Bigfoot being in another dimension or in another place, that's really, for me, all that makes sense when you see all the reports of footprints that go to nowhere. And sure, people could probably back up, wearing the things on their feet, maybe back up, but you see damage when you do that if you ever tried to do it yourself. Yeah. I'm talking about the good legitimate claims where it just disappears. And then I've also talked to people, contactees, experiencers that have been taken to UFOs that see Bigfoot on those. Oh. So there's a component where they tie together. But for me, when I received my spirit guides, especially with Bigfoot, I was looking down a mountain range, and I knew that I could walk that entire range in seconds. And we're talking 20 miles, and I could do it in seconds. And the vision that came to me was that you would each time you took a step, you were stepping through dimension. And so even though you were taking a 2-foot step forward, you were actually putting your foot in an entirely different location. So you could go 20 miles in a blink of an eye, and only touch the ground once or twice or 3 times because of the way the dimensional things were working. If any of that makes any sense at all.
Well, I mean, it's definitely. I am wide open to it all and to the beyond. So it's very, very interesting. Okay, so quite a revelation, actually. I mean, I definitely had never tied Bigfoot and UFOs together and aliens together.
Yeah, and I've not talked, with the people at Contact in the Desert. I didn't talk to anybody that shared any experiences like that. But the people that I've had on my radio show, people that I meet, when people hear, hey, you've got a radio show that talks about the paranormal, or you become the guy that does the ghost hunting, people come to you with their stories. And literally hundreds of people that have talked to me about being a contactee, or I've always called it an abductee, but it seems like we're calling it contactee now. There's so many of those people have told me about seeing odd things, different types of aliens, and one of them was what they would call a Bigfoot, and it was fairly common to see them. And when I would do any kind of a regression with them, a hypnotic regression, so many of them gave great descriptions of seeing this large hairy thing either walking on the ship or actually in the control area guiding things. So I think there is a component, and I've read many stories of Bigfoot sightings increasing in areas where there's been high UFO activities as well.
Todd, I just am having another aha moment. Chewbacca. My favorite.
Could be. Yeah,
right?
I had not done that, but yes, I think your aha moment just hit me between the eyes also.
The Wookiee is Bigfoot.
Without
is the Wookiee.
Question.
I'm just saying. Fascinating. Yep. What do you know about the Yeti compared to the Bigfoot? And I guess what I'm wondering about is it's over in, on another continent from us, typically. Mm-hmm. I mean, what do we know about sightings of such creatures on the different continents?
Well, and that's the exciting thing. And that's why when people say there's no way it's real, how have we had sightings on virtually every continent? I don't think they've had anything on Antarctica, but I think every other continent has had sightings of some type of Bigfoot. They all have a different name. And I'm not talking from the last 40 years. I'm talking thousands of years. There's stories of these large hairy creatures. So there's something involved. You don't just get that kind of lore everywhere in the world and not have some kind of connection, some kind of basis that it started with. And so I believe they're either the same type of entity, or maybe, just like we're different, I look different than the people in Africa, and I look different than the people in Asia. And, the Bigfoot look different in the areas that they hang out with, or the planets, or whatever they're from. But truly, it would be difficult for a Yeti to survive with the height they are typically found at, and there's really not much for food. There's where they're living, where they're spotted, and where their tracks are. There's no vegetation for the most part. There's very little game to hunt. So my assumption is that they don't do their feeding here. They do it in their home dimension. Same reason that we're not finding bodies. They're removed, or they pass in another dimension. But that's I'm just trying to think of any reason that we can look at that we don't find them after they've passed, that we don't find any type of skeleton of them, and very, very little hair samples. And that's the frustrating one. You would think that we'd be better at finding unknown hair samples. And, there's been a few cases, but a little bit of a struggle there. But I do think that they're just leaving this dimension. And that's what I felt when my spirit guide Sasquatch came to me, was that it was a dimensional traveler.
Well, I mean, it's fascinating how this really does all interconnect. sort of imagine, my imagination is definitely going wild right now. And because I was doing some reading on the 5D changes to our planet. And I haven't gotten to this point, but there was sort of the experience of dragons were supposedly also in a different dimension. So because, what's the story with dragons, right? And here they are, or even more so, part of lore from so many different cultures.
Yes. And a lot of the people that we talked to at Contact in the Desert would probably go along the lines that what people were calling dragons were some kind of spacecraft, either landing or taking off. When you look at what, they talk about the fire and the steam and everything from a dragon, looks very much like a space shuttle taking off, one of our rockets taking off. So, I wonder if there's some component there with the ancient alien, and also just like with Bigfoot, if there was some kind of dimensional travel where we were seeing these things that were more like you see on Game of Thrones, an actual dragon flying around with the breath. So I think there's a couple different things. The Chinese dragon really, to me, looks like the trail of a rocket. Where other stories sound more like a reptilian type creature that could breathe fire.
Oh, interesting. So we're talking reptilian too. There's Todd. The mind is blown here at all the possibilities. We're mentioning Contact in the Desert, but I hope you don't mind. I'm doing a quick commercial right now. Tony Sweet the producer of the show, has created a festival, one-day fest, that's going to be happening April 1st, 2023. It's called Parapod Fest, parapodfestival.com. So I hope everybody comes to check it out, because it really is a celebration of the paranormal. And Todd, really, you're an example of, from the healing aspects of what you want to do with what you've studied here, as well as your understanding of the UFO alien world, as well as I think the paranormal. This is exciting, Todd. You're exactly the kind of person that should be coming to Parapod Fest in April 1st. So
I'm going to do everything I can to be there. Yeah, it sounds amazing.
So tell us how the ghost hunting, how you fell into that. So this is you're a paranormal researcher and investigator. So tell me a little bit about that background for you.
Sure. So ghosts, I've, like I said, even as a little kid, I was very interested in all things science fiction, seeing the voodoo and those kind of things on TV shows led me down that way. And then any book I read about ghosts or saw on TV just scared me to death. Mm-hmm. And so, there was that adrenaline rush that went with the ghost part of it. And really, there was just so many more opportunities to do ghost things. So you'd hear about a haunted house, and I'm talking in junior high and high school, and we would get together and sneak into what we thought was a haunted house or a haunted location or a haunted woods, looking for anything we could find. We didn't really have equipment. We didn't think to take recorders with us. And honestly, I didn't even know about EVPs at the time. But
what is EVP?
As I got older and started reading about different people and their studies, that was when it really kicked in, and I started getting recording gear and thinking about other ways to look for them, and I'm not a super creative guy with that, but there are some people out there that are just doing amazing things in that field right now, well beyond what you see from the ghost hunting TV shows.
Oh yeah. Hey, what is EVP?
Oh, sure. That's electronic voice phenomenon. And that was discovered, I want to say, in about the 1930s. A guy just went out into the woods to record bird noises. I say voices. I'm not sure what they're called, but record birds. And while he was doing that, he's in the middle of nowhere, and he is picking up speech, human speech.
Wow.
And that was where the whole thing started. And so what an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, is you've got a recorder going, and you will pick up something being said to you, but you didn't hear it with your ears. And so as you're replaying the event that you were at, you'll hear these different voices speaking either to you or just speaking. And that's what an EVP is.
Fascinating. I feel like I've maybe had that experience before. But I don't know. That's very, very interesting. I have to give that further thought.
Yeah, EVPs are fun, and for an early paranormal investigator, that would be where you find your most evidence. Is just get a nice digital recorder. You can use your phone. Sony makes a great one that a lot of us carry around, and you just record, and then you use something. What is it called? Audacity, that you can get for free. You can listen to what you recorded. That also lets you play things in reverse. And some of the fun EVPs I've had came because I heard something odd on the audio, and isolated the clip where that noise was, reversed it, and then listened to it, and it was a word. So sometimes we get words in backwards. Once I had an EVP that said, "Who brought us this?" but it sounded odd, so I played it backwards, and it said, "Brought his message." So that was fun. I've been on a dance floor in a private club, and something asked me to dance in Italian, and I didn't know what it was at the time. And I wish if you get the right setup, you can get some. There are some recorders now that you can put headphones on and hear these things in real time, which makes a difference. The problem is you get so caught up in what you're hearing that you miss out on what you may hear in the next 5 minutes. So my preference has always been to just do the recording and review. However, in that one instance when something asked me to dance, it was in Italian. I wish I would have known that, and I would have tried to dance. I'm not much of a dancer. It's kind of a Frankenstein stomp back and forth thing with me, but I would have certainly tried to dance with whatever asked me to dance on the dance floor.
Wow. Okay. So was that a ghost? What was that? What was that?
That is a great question. So what most people would say is that it's a ghost talking to you. And I would think that that's a very possible thing. There's also a chance that you're picking up sounds from another dimension. Picture being in, many places are called haunted. And what if that place is just an area that has a very thin veil between the two dimensions? And so you're able to hear things from the other side coming to you. And one of the jokes I like to tell is, wouldn't it be funny if there was a paranormal group in the other dimension going to this haunted location that could hear us? And so I'm asking ghost hunter questions, and they're asking ghost hunter questions, and we're answering these things, and we both think we're talking to a ghost, but we're just talking to physical people that are on different sides of a dimension. So there's a lot of things that it could be, and we're really not sure.
Oh, this is crazy. So you're doing these investigations, and we're bringing back to earlier in the show. You brought a shaman in to help with the protection. So, I mean, if you're hearing a voice and you're not sure what it is, but it's quite friendly and saying, "Let's dance," that's cool. But if you're going into a house and things are really feeling creepy, which a word that I often use when we talk to some people about hauntings on other episodes and things like that. You basically learned more about how to protect your energy from a shamanic practitioner,
yes.
Correct? And this is
yes,
tell us. I want to see if, what your experience is around that, and I'm going to bring it back around to your book a little bit more too. So yeah, but tell us some stories about that, because I do believe that that is a very important practice that we could also all do, kind of wherever we go.
Yeah. So once you access your energy and you cover yourself with it, so you've got some protection while you're in these things. It's like having a force field. You've set up an intent, and you've put this energy around your whole body, and you've set an intent that nothing's going to touch you, to harm you, or follow you home, or get in your vehicle. And so that's where this comes in. You can also, what I do when I'm in a house that they're having trouble is I will access my energy, put it around me, put it around the people, and then do a bigger one around the house and maybe even the neighborhood. And so as I'm making that energy ball for protection, this force field for protection around the people, the house, and the neighborhood, it's pushing out anything that's in there that shouldn't be in there. and then setting up a perimeter that keeps things out so that the people have their sanity back. Now, some people invite things back in, but for most people, that's enough to rid the house of what they're doing. And the people will do whatever they're comfortable with. Maybe they're saying prayers or burning sage or things like that. But what I found is by just using that energy, pushing anything out that shouldn't be there, for most of the cases where people are nervous about a haunting, that will take care of them. But things do follow you back. I had one thing come back with me, and I didn't realize it, but I was working at a place that I had to park quite a ways from where I was at, and I would go eat lunch. I'd sit in the car and eat lunch, and I didn't want to run the air conditioner, so I had the windows open, but there was a lot of bees there, and so that was always a problem. Yellow jackets. One day as I'm walking to the car, it was a couple days after I'd gone on a paranormal investigation, I saw something in the car. I saw like a ghost, an entity, something there. And I get in the car, and I just said to it, I get it. You came back with me. You need to understand you cannot go in my house. And if you're going to sit in my car, you're welcome to, but please keep the bees out. And so for the next 6 weeks, I would go sit in the car with the windows down. This thing was there. There was no bees coming in the car, zero. I didn't have any trouble with bees. And then one day I'm walking out there and I didn't see this thing. And I thought, I lost my buddy.
What did you
What's
see?
That?
I mean, I need to know, what did you see?
It was kind of a shadow, kind of a shape. And it was somewhere between 20/20 vision that I saw it and somewhere in my mind. So
wow,
exactly how I saw it, I couldn't give you all the scientific things, but I know I saw something with my eyes and had a reaction in my head on what it was. And it looked mostly human, like a human outline, human male, but I couldn't get a good picture of it. And so it could have been some kind of, otherworldly thing, or just a ghost that didn't have much shape or something along those lines.
Well, you handled it quite well. I mean, you mentioned when you were little that it was scary to you, and at this point as a man, you sounded like you were pretty blasé about it all. It's like, oh, hey, hitchhiker. And hey,
so,
you have a job. You have one job: keep the bees away.
There's an odd thing and it's not all of us. There's a lot of people that will run screaming from a building, but my makeup now is that, and it has been since probably high school. When everybody's screaming and running away, I'm running towards whatever's causing the screaming. If something's on fire when everybody runs, I go in. If there's I've been around crashes where things are catching on fire and I'm running in and grabbing people when everybody's running away. And then other situations in the military, I'm going in when everybody's running out. And it just becomes, it's just who I am. And there's lots of people like me probably, but you find that in the paranormal world. A lot of people will run out when something weird happens, and there's a select few of us that are walking towards it. And it's not that I'm brave or anything. It's just how I'm wired. And I just have to go do that.
Wow. That's great. I really appreciate that. And, it's interesting. I mean, I'm going to say you are brave, Todd, but I think it's also committed. This is like you're committed to investigating and knowing what this is. You're somebody that's been searching all your life. So if you have an opportunity, I like to tell a story one time that I don't know if you've ever heard the tradition that supposedly on May Day, the fairies will come to you at dusk, or maybe it's the day before Beltane, and if you ask them to come. Another one of those nights during the year when the veils are thin, right? And I was outside, first time house sitting in California on my own, big place, garden, went outside at night, and I asked, I'd love to meet the fairies. And then all of a sudden there was a rustle in the bushes, and I freaked out and ran in the house and called my friend. And it's just like, okay. What would have happened if I would have stayed out there in the twilight? I mean, it might have just been a tree rat or something like that, or it could have been an experience. So I think that's something for us all to contemplate here as we listen to this conversation with you, Todd, is being open.
Yes.
And I think knowing yourself.
Yes, knowing yourself.
To contain your energy, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's what we're talking about. This is where it's tying back to the quantum, but we're also talking about the Bigfoot or an alien encounter or a dragon, if it comes to you, or any number of different experiences that one could have that you're not certain of. I think it's knowing a strength in you, right, and then a protection of your field. So please let me know what you think about that theory.
Yeah, and just maybe even moving back a little farther is think about what kind of team you're going to be on and who's going to be on your team when you're doing these things. If you would have had somebody with you, even somebody that was jumpy when that thing rustled in the bushes, maybe you would have both stayed. Or if you would have had somebody like me, my team, the joke with my team is when scary things happen, we just hide behind Todd. And so if you find a team member that doesn't have the good sense to run that you can get behind, then that would also be good. And then one other thing I'd like to say is when I was doing this work and I got to the quantum room, it gave me an opportunity to meditate. And for years, even decades, when I'd try to meditate, what meditation was sitting down, trying to clear my mind and falling asleep. And, I really didn't get anything out of it. When I'm in my quantum room, I can meditate and actually get things coming to me, answers coming to me. And one of the answers that I got was I was looking for my purpose. And, I'm in my 40s and didn't think I had my purpose. And I really thought once I knew my purpose, everything would line up. I would quit wasting energy on things that weren't related to it, and that everything would be clear, and I would just run down this path to glorious success because I knew my purpose. What I found was that my purpose was two words, and that was to help. And looking back on my life, that's kind of what I've always been. I'm the big brother. I'm the person that gets in the way of things. I'm the one running the wrong way. It's always been about to help. And then trying to learn this energy work again was to help, and learning neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis. That was all about to help. And so while I didn't realize what my purpose was, I was kind of training for it my whole life. And so with the paranormal, that purpose aligned very well, where I could help people with their houses and now help people with health. And we're looking at other things beyond health. What's holding you back? Is there something holding you back? And we can work on it with our energy that way, holding you back in business, holding you back in life, holding you back from doing something you truly love to do. And so it's just kind of broadened out to different areas.
Why, thank you, Slipstream Shaman. That's really, really great. And I appreciate that. And I would actually love to work with you. So we'll talk about that after the show. I think it's great. And everybody, you can find Todd at slipstreamshaman.com, correct? You have a website with your book on it. And there's just again, he's sharing techniques on how to understand this energetic field. That is us. That is consciousness, and our body is just part of that. So, Todd, it's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you. There's so many different directions we started in, and yet I feel like we came back around quite beautifully to talk about your purpose to help others, and yet you're sharing also incredible experiences that I think are fascinating. Thanks for showing.
Thank you.
Us. And I hope
thank you. And I would like to just share one thing before we go, is that the book is a quick read.
Yeah.
You can be practicing these things in 45 minutes or less. You can read the entire book in less than 3 hours. It was made to get into, read, and take action on. I would break my heart if people just had it sitting on a bookshelf. But you can order it through the website. And I was also encouraging people to go to Instagram, Slipstream Shaman. That's where all the new things will be talked about first. If we're doing new healings, we have a thing called polymedella, which is a mini healing. All those things will be talked about on Instagram first before it makes it to the website.
Fantastic. Oh, I'll definitely check that out. So Instagram.com, also Slipstream Shaman, right? At Slipstream Shaman.
Yes, at Slipstream Shaman on the Instagram and also on the website. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Cheers, Todd. Until the next time, and we'll see you at the Parapod Fest.
I hope so. Thank you, Bonnie. It was great seeing you again.
Thanks for listening, everybody. It was really a fascinating conversation. Again, here to consider and investigate the paranormal out there. And yet at the same time, it's always a personal mission, as Todd mentioned, to help everybody live their happiest and healthiest life. So again, I am Bonnie Burkert, here every week with a new episode. You can always catch Tony Sweet on Fridays for his show live at 3 p.m. Pacific, and Robert Hensley also live on Mondays at 3 p.m. Pacific, both of them exploring ufology, the paranormal, and beyond. So Parapod Fest, as mentioned, April 1st, 2023, if you can join us in Southern California. It's going to be an incredible gathering of all of us seeking the higher consciousness and a happier way. Till the next time, everybody, we appreciate your follows, shares, and subscribes. We'll talk to you super soon.